again this week, and we're looking forward to the challenge that Monday night will present. So I'll take any questions you have.
On film, what have you seen how the defense has improved since they added Jadeveon and kind of helped that defensive line get to the passer?
Yeah, he's a great pass rusher, and in this league, it seems that when you have people who can rush the passer, it makes your defense go, and they've done a great job creating turnovers, and they have really skilled players. When you look at like a Bobby Wagner, a KJ Wright, Michael Kendricks, these are guys I've played against before and just have the utmost respect for. Have always respected their scheme, the way they play, the intensity with which they play. They're smart players. And then their defensive line, although names have changed throughout the years, I feel that the production and their effectiveness has really been consistent year after year. So I have a lot of respect for them and the way they play.
Kirk, you're averaging over 9 yards per pass attempt when the previous play was a run. What is it about Dalvin and this entire run game that allows you to kind of have more of those explosives when the previous play was a rush?
Probably in its simplest form, and it's probably more complex than this, but in the simplest form, if a linebacker has to, his responsibility is to fill a gap in the run game and also has to get underneath a throw in coverage in a certain zone, he has to do both. And it's not physically possible to be in the B gap and 12 yards deep getting underneath a route in your hook drop. And so if you can run the ball enough and effectively enough where they are sprinting up into that B gap, you'd like to think that, off the play action then that zone opens up. I think the same applies to every position. A defensive lineman, if he's more worried about stopping the run, he can't have quite as much get off to affect the quarterback as if he's expecting pass and able to just fire off and then react to run. So I think it all helps, and the opposite is also true. If you can, you're throwing the ball and having effectiveness throwing the ball, sometimes you can set up the run. And they start rushing the passer thinking they can get a sack or affect you, and next thing you know, a draw or a run play can sneak out behind them. So you really have to be able to do both, and I think a lot of our success in the pass game is a result of being able to effectively run the ball.
This late bye, was that good for you? Just to get a mental rest, physical rest?
Yeah, I think the bye has always been a positive thing for me, my family, in terms of resting and then being ready to go for whatever the second half of the season looks like. So it came at a fine time, and now we got all the work in front of us.
You have an extended prep, for an opponent like Seattle. Is there anything that you're able to spend more time on in your preparation?
Coach Zimmer emphasized fundamentals, just getting back to things that at times can slip because you're so focused on your opponent week in and week out that you don't have time to go back to the basics like you do in OTAs or even training camp. And so you go back a little bit to fundamentals, and then you also pause and just look back at, okay, what have we done well so far this year? What has enabled us to win football games? And what have we struggled at that has hurt us? And how can we right the ship or fix some of those struggles in the last stretch of the season? So the bye week does give you that time to self-scout, press pause a little bit, and hopefully make any corrections you need to for the stretch run.
Kirk, what do you remember kind of about last year, Seattle game in the aftermath? I mean, Stefanski replaced DiFilippo, and it seems like that maybe kind of started somewhat of the foundation about Zimmer. We really got to get back to running the football, the basics. What do you kind of remember about that week and what it's led to now?
Yeah, I think you said it, Chris. It was a close game. I thought our defense did a phenomenal job all game long. Unfortunately, on offense, we just didn't put up enough points, and lost a close one, a tough one, and so it was one of those hard-fought games in a tough environment, and I expect this Monday night to be much the same way in terms of the environment, in terms of the challenge. But as an offense, we need to have a much better outing than what we had last year.
How about just that ensuing week when Stefanski took over and maybe laid a bit of a foundation to how you guys play now?
Not really sure what to say except that we've just kind of taken it week to week since then, like you always do, and there were decisions made way above me from who we bring in the off season, how we do it, what it's going to look like schematically, all that, and it's led us up to where we are.
Had to kind of adapt in the passing game without Adam out.
Yeah.
If you're able to get him back now, how can that help, just given the fact you've had to develop some other pieces in the last few weeks?
Yeah, we have relied on some different personnel groupings. I think we've asked a little bit more of like an Irv Smith, a Tyler Conklin, even our running backs in the past game being receivers, and they've really answered the call and shown what they can do. So you'd like to think that it gives you more versatility and more experience to lean on if we have Adam back, knowing that there are a few others who are battle-tested, maybe more than they otherwise would have been. I think it says a lot about our coaches, too. I think that's a great job by them to say, hey, we're missing so-and-so. How do we still move the football? How do we get players in a position to be successful? I think coaches have done a good job with that, and Monday night will be no different whether we have Adam or not.
Is it too early, I guess, in the season to call that Seattle game from a year ago a turning point for this offense? I mean, there's obviously the basics, like the offensive coordinator from Week 15 on is the same offensive coordinator, the philosophy and all that, but can you view it like that?
I'm sure it's fun for people covering the team to do that, or people who love to read and listen to it all. That's pretty much the opposite of everything I'm about as a player. I don't really look at turning points. I just look at game to game, how do I do my job. There were so many decisions that were made in January, February, March. There are decisions made in a staff room on a Monday night where they're here late designing a play that ends up being the game-winning play against a team in a close game. So I think you look and you say, boy, there are so many moments you can point to. And I'm sure for people who love to create a narrative, then that's fun to talk about. But for me, I just took it as game after game and pretty boring.
Put it all together, though, you guys are 8th in the NFL in total offense, and this franchise hadn't been in the top 10 in 10 years. I mean, you got to be pleased the way the offense overall has improved this year.
I am pleased, yep. I think it's been a real positive, the way we've run the football, the way we've protected, the way we've thrown the ball, the way we've gotten multiple skill players involved. But, now's not the time to pat yourself on the back or look at rankings. The fact of the matter is you're only as good as your last game. If the Broncos and the Cowboys had hit those 2 passes at the end of the game, everybody would be telling us how much we aren't good enough, and our offensive production would be the exact same. So I don't get too caught up in all that stuff. I just want to go win. Winning is the name of the game, and it's going to be a big challenge to go into Seattle Monday night and get a win.